Hey everybody, welcome back to yet another episode of For the People of the People. Alex and I are going to have a really robust conversation. We have an amazing group of panelists today, and so that we can introduce everyone and everyone has a background and a story, you can see a little bit more of where they're coming from. We're going to introduce you to our panelists. Breon is a professional spoken word artist, educator, and activist born in Baltimore. She is the founder and executive director of Pennsylvania Avenue Black Arts and Entertainment District. She's also the cultural curator for Leaders of Beautiful Struggle, as well as a board member of Do More Baltimore. She's the author of My Head Unbowed, and she's also won numerous poetry slams. J. Justin Y is an educator, illustrator, digital designer, and community activist from Baltimore. He holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Digital Design, as well as a certification in user experience. Theoretical focus is on diverse BIPOC representation in media, virtual spaces, and ensuring accountability for unique cultural identities of marginalized people. Examples of Jay's meaningful work can be found all around Baltimore on playgrounds and educational institutions. Bernard Jones is a native resident of Paterson, New Jersey, with a passion for making Paterson one of the safest cities to live. He has spent 16 years managing the largest medical center in northern New Jersey with over 40,000 patients before starting his own medical home health agency in 2009 as a real estate agent and commissioner of the Paterson Housing Authority and vice president of the Paterson, New Jersey Taxpayer Association. Bernard has spent the last 3 years educating and informing Black and Brown people about the first-time homebuyers grant, affordable housing, and credit and wealth building. Ravondis Thompson is a United States Army veteran, cybersecurity incident coordinator, and a beat by bully boxing coach. And our special guest, Mr. X. All right, so now that we know everyone and everybody is here, just so that you know, we're going to have a great conversation. We're not here to bash one another. This is an open conversation about Black culture and the state of Black culture right now. So I want to put it out there. It's been a lot. It's been a long 12 years. How would you say your life has changed in the past 12 years? What are your thoughts and impressions on the state of Black culture? I'm going to just set this off and I'm going to ask Mr. Breon. Oh, Miss Breon, excuse me, Lady Breon. How do you feel about Black culture or the state of Black culture right now?
It's an interesting question. I think that, you know, there has been definitely a resurgence in activism within the Black community. I think, the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement has definitely sparked many things in different locales across the United States that has definitely moved Black people in a way that is extremely enigmatic of like what we saw with the civil rights movement and Black people becoming more activated, especially young Black people getting in the streets and being more mobilized and getting civically engaged. And so I think that, when I think about the state of Black culture, that's one of the big things that come to mind. And as an artist, I think that I'm also really excited about the ways in which we see artists being a part of this movement and helping to shape the social consciousness of Black people through their art form.
Okay, all right. I definitely can respect that. Ravondis, how do you feel about the state of Black culture?
I would say there's a lot more opportunities that open doors, but it's also a lot more like violence still increasing. That's my main focus. Like, why are like I said, so much violence? The jail incarceration is still high. Like that's the focus issue, and I see that's the main issue target to the Black community. But even though there is so much opportunity out there, it's so much negative influences. So it's like 50-50. You can go either way, but it's just the influence. It just seems like the bad outweighs the good for the most part. So that's what I have to say on that.
Okay, all right. And Jay, how do you feel? Are you more confident now than you were 12 years ago? Like, how are you feeling?
Well, I'm more confident now just because I've grown. I think
Okay.
I think Black culture, we are Black culture, so it's something that's always evolving, and I think I do recognize that there's a great awakening happening for a lot of people, but as in everything, there's always some people that aren't quite getting it, and it's our job to carry our part
Excuse
of
me.
it, and if we can, try to help those to see who can't see. But things overall, I think, are kind of moving hand in hand with the way that the world is moving. Black culture is responding to what the world is giving it, and we have to adapt as we always do and come up with new ways and create ways out of the situations that keep appearing and the things that keep attacking our culture in general. But yeah, that's
That's
it.
how you're. Okay, I can understand that. Now I want to ask the lone wolf on the panel. So I'm gonna ask Mr. Bernard Jones, how do you feel about the state of black culture right now?
To be honest with you, I'm impressed with the new generation who has picked up the baton and is running with it. Because you have to realize that in between, generation dropped the baton. They did not pass it on. And it's so funny because even with the Eli Cummings, who did a wonderful job in uplifting us years ago, and staying focused and motivated. But so much more needed to be done to help the Black community and to help the Black man to be inspired and want more. The Obama, wonderful job. He did, and I was not always an Obama fan, and I watched his speech today actually, at the convention, and I was impressed with like, oh my God, that was touching. It was deep. The beginning of the speech when he brought Biden situation, and I was like, okay, now it doesn't sound as unique and as touching. But I think that I'm really impressed at what is taking place with the younger generation. I'm really taken back by it. I'm happy that they are motivated, they're encouraged, they're fighting the fight that the individuals 40 and 50 just didn't want to be involved with. And I think it started back when that first protest, our first big thing took place in Baltimore, where when those young kids came out and started starting rioting in the mall, and everybody was like, "What are they doing?" That was them being frustrated, and it started with them, and then it died down. And I think that this new generation is just picking it back up now, and they're running full force with it. And I'm impressed, and I'm happy that they are.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now I want to ask. There's something that has happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. We have yet another police involved shooting. What do we do about policing as black culture? Like, are we saying we want to abolish the police? Are we saying we want to defund the police? Are we saying we need community policing? What should we do about policing in this country? I'm going to ask the military veteran, how he feels. So, Mr. Redvondis, what should we do about policing in this country?
So the laws pretty much have to change. They have to be scared. So they go in like knowing that they can get away. They probably have that confidence built in them somehow that they know they'll get away. But if you kill an unarmed man, regardless, that's automatic jail time. Like that should be a law enforced, and that's the way I see it. On that, they get away. Like they don't get um incarcerated no time. They might, like I said, lose their job or quit their jobs, but it's no penalty, so they have that
Okay.
freedom. But it should be a
Okay.
law.
So have you all seen the video? Because I think Alex has the
Yes,
video
as a video.
here.
You,
Okay.
So it got so bad that I don't even look at them no more because I also look at it as a type of a division thing because that doesn't happen every day. But of course, if it's blown up on the media, it'll emphasize it. So I think it really does cause division. So I don't like I can't do nothing about it now. So I don't look at it. I get emotional about it. So
Okay. So you prefer not to watch the
I
videos.
would. I'm not scared, but it's just I know how it would how I would react to it. I'll just be pissed,
right.
and,
So
and nothing's gonna happen.
I think for this particular video, I think it's important to get the opinions of, because based on what you said that if anyone was to be shot or killed unarmed, that there should be automatic consequences for it. And I just think that it's important to see if there's any situation where it is acceptable for a person to be shot or killed unarmed. So I want to play the video. It's very short, and then we all can get our opinions about it, and then have a good discussion. So I'm going to share my screen now.
All right.
And is there any? No, I'm not sharing audio. So
Yeah, I don't think it's not much audio there
Okay,
in the
cool.
video.
All right. It's not letting me share entire screen or scroll tab. Uh, Facebook share. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Shoot.
Okay.
Can you hold on? I'm gonna close that one out and bring that one
Yeah,
back
close
up.
it. Yeah.
All right, and then share screen, Chrome tab. This is up. Okay, here it is.
All right. And this took place in Kenosha, Wisconsin. All right. So now that you've seen it, there's some sound to it, but that's pretty much the clip in totality. What are your thoughts on it? What do we do? Do you want to take this one away, Jay?
While I process, I'm actually I, I also avoided watching the video
Okay.
today. Not because I'm afraid of the video or not because I don't, believe what is going on in the video, but especially during this time, I find that seeing media depict over and over and over again the mutilation of the black body is particularly interesting that it keeps being replayed and shown to us in order to create this sense of terror and this sense of fear
Okay.
within our community. But on your question, watching it now, which is important that I saw that, and I'm glad that I saw it here with you, family. I,
Okay.
I feel like I'm absolutely a proponent for defunding the police, number one. Definitely.
Okay.
I definitely believe that defunding is the way to go and responsibly defunding, which means working with the organizers who have already laid out. I mean, Black Lives Matter has a beautiful platform laid out for how these monies should be redirected and the things that we should do with them, hiring the correct counselors and making it so that situations like this that we just saw on camera where this person obviously has no weapon on them, they might be out of fear moving in the way they're moving. He might have been out of just anger moving, but he did not have a weapon. He did not have any way to harm the police. He was in the action of getting inside his car and was shot in the back. And so many times too. I mean, there's definitely so many red flags about this thing. And yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how this develops. But when I see that, I just say again, here's another public display of the black body being, consumed for people to see it be harmed and consumed and destroyed over and over again, and for that to be, re-embedded into the psyche of the world.
So
Okay.
let me step in. So I need to ask because there are a lot of voices that say and feel that that situation was justified because of the fact that the individual was walking away from the police with the guns being drawn, with the knowledge of how police officers have been towards black people. It didn't seem like that individual had any regard whatsoever to the fact that a gun was being pointed at him.
Mhm.
And also, others would say that as an officer, if you reach into your vehicle, they don't know what you're potentially able to pull out, and based on their training, that would give them authorization to shoot. So, what would you say in response to individuals that would respond in that way to that video? Because there's very many.
What would I say in regards to the situation? We see this man being basically walked with the police officer walking behind him with a gun trained on his back the entire time. There was plenty of time. There was at least 8 feet before he made it to that car door to get inside, and there's plenty of non-lethal ways to take a person down before they get to that position. There was plenty of opportunity if that situation was handled correctly for that man to be taken down without a lethal, a gun to his back or being shot. They have tasers, they have suppression holds that aren't putting a knee on your neck. There are plenty of other things that they could have done, and that's my answer to that. If people have that rebuttal that, it was justified, it's justified to use a gun on somebody because they are doing something suspicious, when you have all of these other options to pick from to handle the situation without taking a person down and killing them. We've seen it even when people, in white situations, in comparison, where white men have murdered or white boys have murdered people, and they've been taken down very appropriately and with care and with dignity. And here you have people who are doing nothing, or perhaps they are doing something. Maybe he was upset, but does that warrant him being killed? I don't think so.
And that's just to make sure we're clear on that situation. The person was not killed. She was shot brutally, but he's still alive. So
Right,
does
right.
does anybody else have anything different to add to how the officers could have responded in that situation?
To be honest with you, Jay, I was at first I wasn't agreeing with the whole process, but once you explained it, you really made sense that they had ample time to hold him or take him down before he got access to the vehicle. Because at first I was like, why would the main thing here is we have to train our black young men. If you're in a job and you're speaking to a supervisor, manager, and the manager is uh, blaming you for something, and you're going to sit there and you're going to take it because you don't want to lose your job. You're going to say, I'm going to allow this idiot to say what he want to say to me. He may be incompetent, but I'm not going to lose my job, whatever. I'll be upset. Why are we now making it okay for our black men when we know that Caucasian men are shooting our black men down, that we are egging them on to be forceful with a police officer? When I'm stopped now, it's to the point of, yes, sir. Okay, give my ticket, sir, so I can go, sir. I'm not going to antagonize a police officer, get him worked up, make him more upset than what he is because he's weak and he's fearful of us and he looks at us with such anger that he thinks that we're going to attack him because he only got that gun and that job because he's trying to take care of his family. We have to educate our men on that. One,
All right.
we should not what is that? Defund the police force? Not at all. Not at all. We can't do it. I think that what we have to realize here is that I ran for office, so I've studied politics for the last 12 years. I ate, slept, drunk politics. Most cities like Patterson or Baltimore, they're governed under a government called the Faulkner Act, where it is a government of the city council and the mayor. And the city council in most large urban cities is like Congress, and the mayor is like the president. It is the job of African American people to elect individuals that are going to protect them and fight for them, not individuals that are trying to use average poor black people as a come up. Once we say to ourselves, we want intelligent individuals that are going to go out there, create legislation, balance the budget, allocate funds for us, and that's not trying to do backroom deals and find a reason to have a come up with their family. Once we find those individuals, then those individuals can hold the mayor accountable and say, you hire the right police chief to run this police department. You hire the right police director. You use the funding to make sure that our black men are coming off these streets and they're being trained to become welders and real estate agents and mortgage brokers, because those are jobs that you can get with a record that can be expunged. It is not defunding something. It is making sure you get the right people in office to hold the mayors accountable to make sure that they get the right people to run the police department. I live in an urban community in Patterson. I think it was like right down the street from my house. And here I own a business, successful. And people say, why do you live there? Because I want to live there. Why do I have to run to live in a community with a bunch of Caucasians and I can't live where I was raised at? So now we're allowing the drug dealers and the killers to run all the good people out the cities and leave the city to be in ruins with individuals that just want to sell drugs.
Agreed.
No, we have to really start saying, we're not defunding anything. You manage the money correctly. You get the right individuals in here to do what they're supposed to do, or we're going to vote you out of here. That's our problem in urban communities.
Okay. All right. So I think we're going to basically
Really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, just really quickly, it's a couple of points that I just wanted to say. So first of all,
Breon, one second. Can you don't forget what you're about to say. Can you incorporate in your answer black accountability in these situations as well as the as your rebuttal.
Accountability
Okay.
in these situations.
Yes.
I will try. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So to begin, I think it's really interesting that the I'm sorry, I can't see everybody's name, but
So
the
we have
previous
Bernard,
Bernard.
Rivardis.
Okay.
Okay.
I find it really interesting. Bernard started his commentary around saying that we have to basically train Black people in how to engage with police officers. And what's interesting to me is that should be the opposite because police officers are the ones who are actually trained and paid and consistently evaluated on how to be public servants. So, regardless of how Black people respond in a situation where they are afraid, where they may be angry, and yes, they may be acting out or even committing a crime, the people who are paid and trained and based on their position designed to respond in a particular way is the police officers, not civilians. So I think it is baffling that people suggest that we need to be
Mhm.
training citizens on how to do the job of police officers. I think it's wholly inaccurate and inappropriate to suggest that
Mhm.
we have to train our children, our young people, to be in a state of constant fear if ever they are stopped by a police officer when those police officers are public servants. So I think that's first and foremost. We have to change the narrative that we are speaking about how we engage with police officers. Should we be respectful? Absolutely, because they're human beings. Should we engage with them as best we can? Absolutely, but we're not the ones who were trained to respond in high risk situations. We're not. The second thing that I think is important to talk about is well, I think it's interesting when we talk about defunding the police because defunding anything is not a new topic. We talk about defunding
Mhm.
education every year. We talk about
Yes.
defunding a number of things all the time. But somehow, when people hear defunding the police, they think it means abolish all police, right? And that's not what the case is. But when you look at, let's take the aggregate amount of police officers, the budget item for police officers in the United States collectively you can combine the military budgets for several countries across the world, and it still won't equal up to how much we pay for policing in America.
Absolutely.
It is
Yep.
wholly just unimaginable why we pay that much. And we're not even talking about our military. We're just talking about our police force. So it absolutely needs to be defunded, especially because there are a number of alternative ways to support cities. Because we're paying all this money in Baltimore City for police officers, and crime has not changed. This city is
Yep.
dangerous. It's a whole lot of issues. So obviously, pouring more money into police forces is not the answer. And when you talk about getting young people off the streets, getting brothers to stop selling drugs, that means you need to invest money in workforce development. So you can take some
Mhm.
of that money from police officers and make sure you have programs designed to give young brothers alternative things to do other than criminal activity. What I know to be true is if people have what they need to live and survive, they will not turn to drugs. So that's what I feel like the conversation should be about. And that's why we need to talk about defunding police because we pay them too much and they ain't doing the job.
Okay, I respect your honesty.
Absolutely.
So hey, so for the sake of
You
time,
know,
we're going to move on. Everyone's going to have the. What you say, Bernard?
I just want to. You're right, but again, I understand what you're saying, but we have to realize that we're talking about a police force, and we're saying that they should be trained. That system has been broken for centuries. That those, no offense, old Caucasian men, that was their job to become police officers, to beat on black men and kill black men back in the
Hey,
50s and 60s. So seeing that
Bernard,
that their
real
job.
quick. Bernard, real quick. It's not just white officers. It's just the entire police force. It doesn't matter what color you are. In
Okay,
terms of
we
who's
had.
doing it.
I'm listening. That is,
No, that was all I had to say because
to be honest
it's
with
not
you,
just a white and black thing.
but with the majority of them is Caucasian officers that are
Yeah.
shooting black men. The black, no offense, I think the black officers are sitting in these police or in these police precincts, and they're not saying anything because they're afraid to lose their job. They do not
Right.
want to go off the boat. They do
That's what
not want
happened
to
to
turn on
me.
the blue.
Right. That's what happened to me. Like my only encounter with black police misconduct was all full black officers, and I mean that was it was a really terrible situation that happened to me, and I literally was doing nothing but driving home. So
But does this also bring the question of what it means to be pro-black? Because I think that's at this
yes,
point we're
yeah,
kind
it
of
was just
going down
yeah.
that
So
pathway of what it means to be pro-black.
Yeah,
Um,
so
I mean,
ki- ki-
I feel like it's an interesting question, this idea of being pro-black, because for me, I think that too often when we talk about racism and white supremacy, we talk about it in terms of individuals rather than as a system, right? We talk about anti-blackness, we're talking about a phenomenon that is not specific to individuals. So you can have
Hmm.
anti-black black people, you can have
Yes.
anti-black white people, you can have anti-black Indian people, right? It doesn't matter the ethnicity of the person or the nationality of the person. You're talking about being indoctrinated in a way of thinking, in a way of being when we talk about anti Blackness. And when you talk about racism, white supremacy, you're talking about systems that are consistently perpetuated and upheld by the very way we live our lives and how we're taught to exist, right? And the way that money flows, and the list goes on. So I think it's really important, right? When you talk about having been abused and having an instance of police officer misconduct, and they were all black. Absolutely. And they were still upholding a system of white supremacy. Because when you think about how policing started in America, it was absolutely a response to the lynch mob tactics of the KKK. And a lot of the policies that have determined how police officers act have never been changed since then. So the way that they think is still to squelch black vibrancy or our ability to exist and to thrive and to keep us in containers. Mass incarceration is another extension of that same policy and thought process. So when we talk about anti-blackness, white supremacy, please do not think about it in terms of individuals, right? And when you talk
Hmm.
about pro-blackness, at the end of the day is, do I believe that black people should have the ability to live and thrive and be free and love themselves and show up as they are? If that's a yes, then you pro-black. And I don't
okay.
feel like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's it. That's all. That's the conversation. So I'm pro-black every day
okay.
of the week because I'm black and I got a black mama and a black daddy, and I believe we should be able to exist.
Okay, I want to bring Ravondis into this conversation. What does it mean to be pro-black to you? And the reason why, I guess we should give a little bit of background about why this particular question, because it kind of is just sitting out there. Like, why would you ask me this? So, we've seen a lot of public figures come out. We've had Nick Cannon has gotten into a bunch of issues. We've had Deshaun Jackson who's gotten into a bunch of issues, but he later apologized. We've had Ice Cube who's gotten into a bunch of issues. So a lot of the time they're lumping a lot of this together. And when they're talking about pro-black, usually they mean that it means pro-black anti-white. So what does it really mean to you, Ravondis, when you hear what is pro-black?
Pro black to me means pretty much sticking up for your race. Of course, we have a lot of negatives, but don't denounce like being black. You basically live like I see it as though you live your life to help improve your community. You dedicate your life to it. If you're trying to improve the community, you see flaws, don't call it out without witnessing, without acknowledging the past hurt, like what caused the black um, life to end up the way it is, like the psychological effects that it had. Like you say, it goes back to slavery and, like you said, the system, the perpetual infliction, like that has been. You always got to acknowledge that, like what happened to us, why we are like that. But then you just gotta speak positive about the black people and address past issues and just try
Hey,
to
so
bring
Ravon,
healing
it's
to the
about the
community.
negatives, right? Because like that's the, at least for me personally, like I have a very big issue with not the meaning, and I like how Brian had stated it, where it's not something you focus on one individual, because one individual is not a representation of being pro-black. It's the idea of saying that black people should have the same equal rights as everyone else. The thing that I take issue with is when a lot of people within in our community, or people that aspire to be pro-black or claim to be pro-black, seem like they focus on a certain type of black person. So if it's either a person that's dating outside their race, or a person that is gay, or like if or supporting other things that are not black, how is it that we are acceptable or accepting of those kind of ideas when you're still black if you date outside your race, you're still black if you're gay, but those type of people are definitely respected within our community. And when they're brought up, like, yo, this person, you know, this is this what this person thinks. Why do you respect this person? There's excuses that are made for it. So it could be by Brian. I think you
So what that
go ahead. It doesn't matter who,
I just
whoever wants
wanted to
to respond.
say, and then I'm gonna step back because I know I talk too much. But I just wanted to say that this is not a popular opinion upon the so-called pro-black community, which I think is a misnomer because oftentimes those are people who are anti-black. Um,
Okay.
the truth is, if you do not love all the parts of blackness, all the ways in which we show up, you are not pro-black because
Right.
you can disagree with people's politics. You can disagree with people's methodology. You can disagree with a lot of things. But if for whatever reason you do not love blackness in all the ways it shows up, so that includes black
Mhm.
trans people, that includes black people who are gay or lesbian or Republican or Democrat or black people from the continent or black people from America. Like, if for whatever reason there's some breakdown in your mind that they are less human or less worthy or less whatever, as black people, that's a you problem. And that probably stems from some kind of internalized racism, some kind of breakdown in your own psychology, some kind of issue that you are having that leads you to say or believe those kinds of things. But that is not a representation of pro-blackness, especially because you can find instances in classical Africa where you have whole harems of people who are poly and gay and trans and all the things. So if you want to talk about black people being the beginning of civilization, then you can't say there's any part of blackness that you don't find within us first.
Okay,
I
I love
agree with
that.
that.
Right.
That's a great answer. So I have a short video that I like to play, and then we need to move on to the next topic, so we have time to get through everything. So let me share this one video for that is basically on what Breon was saying. I love your responses, guys. Hold on one second. This video is playing. I'm not sure what's going on with my internet. Might not be able to play the video. I'll see if I can play it at the end. So let's just move on to the next question.
Okay, not a problem. I wanna jump ahead a little bit because I feel like we kind of touched on the other question. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The one thing that tends to happen, you tend to hear it time and time again when you talk about anything that has to do with Black Lives Matter. The rebuttal is, what about black on black crime? So let's talk about the elephant in the room. What are your general feelings about black on black crime, murder, and violence? And we don't even really have to even use black on black crime. Let's just say crime in urban areas, urban and poor areas. Do you agree that there is a problem in urban cities? Would you like to take this away, Bernard?
You guys can jump on me now. I think the problem is really how can I make a broad statement like that? I'm going
You
to make this
can. Go
statement.
ahead.
It is this.
Okay.
I truly, truly, truly blame the Democratic Party because most urban communities or black cities that are majority African American are just in ruins and they're like shooting each other up. I'm using this as an example. I live in Patterson. Over $1 billion comes into Patterson every year for workforce programs, for grant money. All types of resources are here. But guess what? It's coming in the front door and it's leaving out the back door by the powers that be. A city that has not been controlled or ran by a Republican in almost 50 years. You have a Democratic school system, a Democratic council, a Democratic county committee, all Democrats. that are receiving funding, doing grants, and that are not doing absolutely anything to help mold or better our communities as a whole. But they did such a big protest when we had where they wanted to bring, no offense, individuals from other countries into the United States. They're coming into the United States receiving 11, $12,000 up front, health care. We're trying to help send them back to school and pay for their education. And but we're not trying to find programs and resources to help our own black people that are dying and yelling for help and support. That's one of the reasons I really believe why our African Americans are shooting each other down, robbing each other, killing each other, because they feel like they have no hope. And I'm not making excuses for them. That is just me from studying and paying attention to what's going on in these urban communities across the United States of America.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All
Hey,
right.
let me jump in. So just to sum up what you're saying, Bernard, you believe that because cities that overwhelmingly have a high black population, because they're run by Democrats, that's what's causing the issue, and that if they were ran by Republicans, that things would be a lot better. Just to kind of sum up what you're saying.
That's a nicer version of what I was saying, because a good example here in my city where I'm from, 150,000 individuals. There was a white mayor years ago. And the African American people just, oh my God, he was the best mayor in the world. And one day I said, well, what was so good about him? He was sicking dogs on black people. If you didn't pay your taxes, he arrested you. And that's what you guys have in your mind, that you need something like that to make this city better. That is sad. Where you now have a black, if you mention black pride, or you mention power to the people, the black people are so happy and elated. But if you tell them you're being robbed, you're being taken advantage of, you become the bad person, because they have been trained by the Democratic people to just listen. We got you. We're going to give you a piece of chicken, and we're going to motivate you, and we're together. You cannot tell a black person in Baltimore, in Patterson, in Brooklyn that they are being taken advantage of and that they're being used, because then you become the problem and it's you.
Okay.
All you have
All
to
right.
do is say, everything's good, we got this, and they're happy, and you're their brother and you're their sister. She's shaking her head like I'm ready to let loose on him. Go
Yeah, yeah.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got yeah.
Breon.
So
Jay, I want Jay. Jay, you want to jump in here because I see you
Oh
shaking your
God.
head as
okay.
well.
So just in response to Bernard.
Listen, I would probably be saying the same thing that Lady Breon is gonna say. Like I'm like
Yeah.
flabbergasted here. Honestly, I mean, as somebody who's from Baltimore, born and bred, like I know the problem, I know the struggles, I know what happens. But all the things that you're giving as reasons for real are like excuses that have been built up on the backs of years and years. We're talking about centuries, right? Systemic racism and all the things that have come behind that. Like these systems did not stop. They are being re-perpetuated again and again and again to the people, and the leadership follows suit. Yes, in Baltimore, there are lots of issues with the leadership, but that does not mean that Republicans coming in is going to be any better for the people who are here. That obviously is not going to be the case, and you can see that. Look at our country. Look at what's on top. You only have to look at that to see the model for down the line. There's not going to be anything better than that. The answers, like Lady Breon brought up earlier, are defunding, using the money to do things that we know work. Like we've had studies that have done this. I was part of a study that that was looking at what education does to students, what education means to incarceration rates and to success rates and happiness. We understand that. We understand that rec centers being shut down directly affects the crime levels in the cities and affects the mindset of people who are there. When resources are given to the people and when people actually have the things that they need, jobs, and can sustain those things and live fulfilling lives, crime goes down. Black on black crime is the same as white on white crime. It's the same as every other kind of crime. It happens in the areas that it happens with the people, mostly by the people that are this look the same as them. Black people affect black people the most. White people affect white people the most. We understand that. But to say that the black on black crime, I can't get with that, and I can't understand the idea that you think, Bernard, that you think somehow Republicans are going to do a better job than Democrats have, or that somehow it's gone that way. It's very first of all, it's a very linear way of thinking when you're thinking of all these different groups. And also, I'm a progressive, so I'm a progressive Democrat. I'm not a moderate. I'm not a centrist. I'm not over here trying to play these games. Right now, we're voting for Joe Biden, and I understand we have to do that to get out of the issue that we're in now. But it was not my choice. It's a struggle. I want to pull my hair out looking at the choices that are there, but I understand that it has to happen for us to even get past this first mark that we're in now. See what I'm saying?
So, what do you feel about Kim Klayak? She is gone national. Trump loves her. He has replaced her seemingly with Candace Owens because she is speaking at the Republican National Convention. Candace Owens is not. So, what do you feel about her video? What do you feel about her ad? Because a lot of people, especially in Baltimore, have kind of gravitated towards this with the idea that it is the Democrats that have caused Baltimore to become what it is today.
Yeah,
You talking about Kim Classic?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Classic. Yeah.
You guys ready to see the video? It's very short. All right, that's for everybody to be able to see it.
Uh-oh. Is it not playing?
It's not playing on.
If it's not playing, that's all the better.
Yeah. it was a sign.
So you guys can see it right. All right.
Oh, you want me to pull it back?
Has everyone seen it?
Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I didn't see that though.
I think I'm one of the only people that probably hasn't watched it in its totality.
She walked through the hood in a red dress.
Okay.
And she,
So let me.
And pumps.
And pumps, yeah.
She's pumping it through the alleys, right? For real.
So let's. I don't want Bernard to feel like he's alone. I'm not in any way.
I don't mind. Okay.
You're breaking up really bad, Alex. I don't know why.
Sorry. I don't know. Maybe it's I'm on my phone. Because my internet's been.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Because you're breaking up pretty bad. I can't really hear you.
Okay.
You sound robotic.
Is it still bad now? Robotic. Yeah. Okay. So let me just answer this question. Okay. How, when you have examples of Republican-run cities that do not have crime, and when Black people have not given Republicans opportunities to run their city, what would your response be without ever seeing a Republican-run city that would be better under a Republican? For anybody.
Sorry, if you could sum it up, are you saying if you have never seen an example of a Black city run by Republicans that was successful, then how are you using the Democratic argument against Baltimore as an example? Is that what I heard?
No, not basically. How are you defending against the fact that people tell you that the reason why your city is shit is because a Democrat? You guys never get
You're gone again. You were there, and then it.
So how can you make this argument?
Okay, and you got it.
I think we got it though.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
I would say
for anybody, just for anybody, we'll go to the next one. What you say?
I would say Ashe, meaning I agree, and so I can't answer your question because that's the same question I have.
Okay. Do you want to take?
Okay.
Ravondis, do you want to jump in with
Jay or Ravondis?
I'm still on I didn't get to speak on the black on black crime issue, so I just had to get one thing off my chest, and I wanted to see how everybody felt about that. It's actually the music. Our music, we're the main culture. Like I believe our crime rate is higher amongst each other, and then we're the only culture. Like I said, we have rap and hip hop, and where we glorify crime and violence. So that's a major thing. Like that needs to be issued. Like I listen to rap myself. But like I said, I'm gonna be real. I do listen to it, but that's a problem in our culture as well that needs to be addressed. The glorification of it, and like I said, we praise it. Like it's cool. We just ignore the stuff they saying, but that's how we get looked at in that way. They can paint us out to with the term black on black crime. I would say our black music alone.
So
Like I said,
you
I
think
used
it's
to,
the music that's
no,
part?
I
that's
agree
one
with
thing.
that though too. A part of it.
Can I
I
say
actually agree with
something?
that. I think that go ahead.
I'm sorry. It's like my screen is
Oh,
frozen, so I can't see when people are talking. My bad.
Okay,
Please.
we can
no, you're
hear you
good.
just fine though.
Oh, let me just like give my why I agree with him. The reason
Okay.
why I agree with him is because I feel like in our music, it's glorified to uh, betray an athlete or a rapper, and then when you see the type of imagery a rapper is to those that don't have a lot of wealth or success, they want to be like that. And to be anything like that, a lot of times our peers shun you to not be anything besides what a rapper is: tough, aggressive, wealthy, hypersexual, violent, speak a certain way, shunning education. So I feel like there are not enough examples of different types of successful black people that are glorified and respected across the board, and it's just more popular to be an athlete or rapper, and then the rapper mentality it gets carried on in our youth, and it just seems like it's a never ending cycle of that same continuation. So that's the reason why I agree with Ravondas.
So I just wanted to say, as an artist, a literary artist at that people often call a rapper, right? I'm not. I'm a poet, but
Okay.
um, I, so have y'all ever listened to like rock music? You ever listen to
I
like
love
Yes.
rock
rap
music.
music?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
All the time.
yeah,
Like, and nobody says, you know what? The reason why white people are purveyors of violence and cause wars across the world and are racist and kill black people is because of their music. You never hear
right,
people say that, although
Never.
the most violent people, when
right,
you look at wars across millennia, it's white people.
Mhm.
So I think it's kind of wild that
right,
people say black, rap music is why there's violence in black communities because there is music that reflects how people feel across genres. So if you want to look for violent music, you
right,
can find it in a whole music from all kinds of people, creeds, ethnicities, whatever, because music is a reflection of people. It's a reflection of our realities. It's a reflection of our social location and what we go through. So if we live in communities that are violent, our music might reflect that. If we grew up in a trap or in the projects, our communities, our music is going to reflect that. I promise you. If the material conditions of black people was a bit different, the music would sound different because it's a reflection of us. In no way, shape, or form is art the reason why people are acting a particular kind of way, or the reason why poverty exists, or the reason why disparities in black communities exist. I promise you, it's racism and white supremacy every time. And even the reason why we
So
blame it on music is pathology. Like we're pathologizing black people and our byproducts, and that's a problem.
I agree. I
Yes.
agree with the music
okay,
part. I agree with the music part. That
I like that response.
I don't think that it's music
I like that
that's
response a lot.
necessarily causing it because that's the
So
same logic they use with like mass shootings in video games. It's the video
or video
games
games,
that cause
yes.
the mass shooting, and I'm like, no, I think it's some underlying conditions. They just happen to play video games,
Especially
but
Right.
because mad
So
people play video games, right?
right, right. I agree, but
Also, the
but
last
sometimes go ahead.
I think it's also important to note that there are hundreds of thousands of examples of successful Black people and Black people who are doing amazing things. And we have to be careful because it's very dangerous to say that people don't have enough examples of Black people doing amazing things. It's just
Right.
not true. Look at the lineup that you have right here,
No,
right?
no.
There are
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah. So
And
so
so
hold on.
we gotta be careful not to say that.
I didn't mean to. Yeah, I didn't mean to say that there are not enough examples. What I meant to say is that I feel like we are not glorifying those examples in the same way that a lot of us are
You,
glorifying the rapper and the athlete. At least that's
I
my opinion.
I would like to say that I don't think it's so much you're blaming. You said music, and you say we're not glorifying. I grew up in with conscious artists and artists that these are my favorite people. You know what I mean? Rap. You talk about rappers, people who really spit game and gave me kind of the seeds of the knowledge that I understand now about who I am, and really understand the knowledge itself movement. You know what I mean? And to really understand that stuff. So I find it hard to kind of demonize something that I know was, almost a lifesaver for me in a world that I
Right.
was dealing with in the 90s, especially, and dealing with the violence and stuff that I saw. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard for me to look at it like that. Also, to that point about black on black crime, I think it's so funny, and about the music being the cause, the biggest purveyors of black music are white people. White kids buy up more rap than we can ever purchase. You know what I mean? So if
Right.
music is going to be a cause, then they be out here doing all the things that you hear in the rap songs. They're thinking all the same things. So we know that it doesn't stand. On top of the fact that there are tons of professional studies that have been done, right? Scholarly studies that have been done to show that that is not the case, and that video games nor music, as Lady Breon just illuminated, the art does not inspire the people to then act a certain way. It is an expression of what the conditions are.
I have a
And there you
question.
go.
So, do you agree, before we move on, because we do have to move on to the next question, but do you agree, because we kind of got away from this a little bit, do you agree that there is a problem with crime in urban areas, urban predominantly black areas? Do we agree on that, or do you think that that's more of mass media trying to portray something that's not there? Because there's issues in West Virginia that don't get talked about, there's issues in Charles County that don't get talked about. Do you think that this is something we need to look at as black people?
I think so,
I,
absolutely. Like 300 people dying in my city is nothing to ignore or sweep under a rug, right? There's
Mhm.
absolutely crime and violence that we need to be thinking strategically about. How do we cause a shift? I appreciate organizations like Ceasefire in Baltimore. I appreciate organizations like Safe Streets in Baltimore. I appreciate organizations like the NOI that we talk about community policing. These are organizations that is doing that work and looking at alternative ways to create a movement of safety and valuing lives in our city. And those are the kind of organizations and the kind of people that we should be pouring money into because their practices have been
Yeah.
working. So it's no question. Should we be focusing on how to make our community safer? Absolutely. But we can't keep looking at the same tactics that have not been working for decades. Like we have to do things differently. And a part of that is getting people what they need to live and thrive. And when communities are more viable, as Jay said, the crime rate will decrease.
So do you believe that the rebuttal, the all lives matters movement, you don't care about black on black crime, is bullcrap? Like, black people do care about black on black crime.
People just dumb. Like when I say Black Lives Matter, I mean they matter when they live in. So that means it ain't just about police killing us. Anybody killing black people is a problem to me. When I say Black Lives Matter, I mean the whole landscape of black life. But people are dumb and they
Right.
don't understand what the phrase means. So they just keep throwing out anything.
Okay, I can agree
I
with
don't
that.
think people are
Hmm.
dumb. That was rude. But
Okay, I know. I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And we have another guest here as well. I don't know what happened to Alex, but we do have another guest. Welcome to the show, Mr. X. You have come in on a version of black on black crime, or just crime in urban and poor areas. I don't know if you want to give a take on how you feel about this, because we were talking about, is it a myth that black people don't care about black on black crime?
I cannot agree with that, saying black people don't care about black on black crime. But I don't know. I think we've become almost like numb to it. We've become so used to it, so adjusted to it. We talk about it, and it's kind of praised now. Like the murder rate, people talk about that like it's a good thing.
Oh, so you believe that people in urban areas like Chicago and Baltimore, St. Louis, it's a badge of honor to say we had 325 murders last year?
The glorifying.
Yes.
That was my point.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in DC in the
Yeah,
80s.
I just think we're doing the agree or disagree. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in DC in the 80s and the 90s, and you know that title murder capital, that's where it came from. That's where it originated from, and we bragged about it. You know, we talked about it like, yeah, you know, and you know, that's not cool now. I'm totally not with that. I'm so against it. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Okay. I agree with that. We're gonna move on to the next question, which is about voting. There's another myth that has been perpetuated. Why is it that black people don't vote? This is bar any type of voter suppression and any of that. There's a lot of black people that feel I don't want to vote. My vote doesn't matter. Why is that? Why do
Also,
you feel
let
like
me
black people
answer.
don't vote? And then are you planning on voting this election? You do not have to answer if you choose not to.
Can I
Also,
start?
too, if you,
Yes.
yeah,
Go ahead. I'm sorry,
let me add this one thing. So when you answer the question, also try to offer a solution as to how we can get more black people engaged, or what type of things can be in place to get more inspiration for blacks to vote.
Okay. Can I go now?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So first off, complete myth.
Okay.
That's a lie that black people don't vote. In fact, per capita, we vote the highest for our people, definitely. I think it's 92% was the last I looked up for a Democratic vote that gets for turnout for blacks. In fact, in the last election, if you look at the breakdown, Trump support, it was 8% was the support from black people, men and women. White men, 57%. White women, 46%. This is educated and non educated all across the board. 26% for Asian, 27% for Latinx communities. So when you talk about black people not voting, first of all, that's a lie. That's a myth. Black people do vote. Now, when black people don't vote, when we look at the situation and look at what has happened, a lot of times there's voter suppression that has gone on, and this takes place physically and also just in the way that the setup is for the people there. There's a lot of things that go into that. There's a lot of barriers that they're presented with. There's barriers to, with your entitlements and your ability to get to these places. We can see right now they're closing polling stations. We're literally living in a perfect example of why black people don't vote, except for now it's being exercised on the whole community, right? You know, on the whole country, sorry. So you're seeing this in a bigger version. But the short answer is to this that black people do vote. Number one, we do vote. And
Okay.
when we don't vote, it's because there are outside circumstances that are keeping us from voting the majority of the time.
Okay. All
And
right.
yes, I plan. You said, do we plan to vote? I plan to vote. Yes, I'm going to vote.
Okay. So you're exercising your right. I want to ask the
Yeah.
one person that actually did run. Bernard, why do you feel that there's some African American people that feel that they don't need to vote? Like, my vote doesn't count. It's not going to change anything. Why would I take the time to even give to this system that's broken?
Again, you ready?
Okay. Okay.
It's not that black people are not voting, it's that black people do not know how to vote. And that's
Okay.
the problem. We are a group of emotional individuals. We like to vote for someone that's relatable. A brother, someone that reminds me of my brother, of my mother. But 9 times out of 10, you have to say to yourself, I'm trying to watch what I say. You have to really like it's different for me. Like I'm in
Okay.
politics, I consult with people, I train people, I tell them what do everything that you're gonna do opposite of what I did. And I say that because African American people get they're kind of I'm really trying to watch my wording. I don't want you guys because Alex has to go ham, so I'm watching.
Okay.
Whoosh, seriously. I blame us. We don't know how to vote, point blank. And I say this because I watched in the city. I'm not going to say what city it is. And I was on the phone
Okay.
with someone yesterday that said, Bernard, I want to run. What do you think? And I told the person, I don't think you should run against that mayor, be a council member, because that mayor is known to be an ex gang member. And I said to them, my exact words were, Be careful. And the next thing I said, it's sad that a city knew what that individual was, and they still voted him in and allowed him to beat an attorney. And that is what's taking place in all these cities. I was in an election and ran against someone that was dumber than a doorknob, owed the city over $150,000 from a grant he got that he didn't pay back. He had a suspended license, was just an idiot. And they elected him because he was relatable. And they said, Bernard, you're cocky, arrogant, snobbish, and uppity. And that is the problem across the board, that we do not know how to vote for the right individual that's going to protect us, fight for us, and get us what we want. We want a relatable person, a brother, a sister, not realizing that that person is using us for a come up. That is the whole problem. Second, on this Donald Trump incident, I am voting for Joe Biden and what's her name? Harry.
Kamala.
Kamala
I'm
Harris.
surprised.
We're gonna talk about her in a minute.
Go
We're gonna talk
off.
about her in a minute, but go ahead.
Because they are the best of the two evils. Hillary Clinton should have won that election from that last election against Trump. He played the game correctly. He had everybody, oh, she's a crook. She can't control her own house. She let the lady come in and sleep with her husband. We made it a joke. And look what happened. We were playing and cracking jokes on the internet and laughing at her. And we should have just said she was the one. Everyone said for years, no one was more intelligent than her. No one knew government, knew the policies. And we allowed him to get in here and just act like a straight fool, crazy lunatic. But the whole issue is that what? We did not learn from this as African American people. It was a learning lesson. What he taught us is one, that the president has the power. Obama didn't use that power at all to do anything good or bad for us. He was just neutral. He did not want to rock the boat. He sat there and he said what he needed to say. And they was like, oh, he's a president for the people. He's not a black president. Now y'all want a black president because we have a racist running the country? Pick your battles. So
Okay.
we should be worried not just about Donald Trump, because he's irrelevant. That's just a clown. We now have to worry about the next racist dummy that come into this country and said, if Donald Trump got away with it, I can get away with it because the people allowed it. I don't even think he's a racist. I just think he doesn't know what he's saying. He's entitled. He's wealthy. He didn't get away with saying things that he really don't mean. He just doesn't know any better. We have to worry about the ones that's coming behind him, that's going to be worse than him, that's not going to tell us what their plans are, that's not going to open their mouths when they have intentions of harming the black people. Those are things that we need to focus on that we're not.
Okay. You mentioned Obama, though. So I want to interject really quickly about Obama's legacy.
And I'm sorry, I'm interjecting, but I'm not a voter. I don't vote. I don't believe in the system. There's so much corruption, and I don't believe it. I seriously, I just don't believe in the system.
Can we do a quick who is not voting? You don't have to like give an explanation. So you're not voting.
I'm telling you.
Okay.
No.
All right. I just wanted to just gauge. So
I vote locally, but I don't really participate in national politics as much. I think politics are local, and when we really talk about how to change our cities and what affects us the most, it really is a local conversation. So, I mean, I'd be writing in my Lord and Savior for president sometimes.
Okay.
I don't know.
So,
I do believe in local voting, though. But
okay, so you know that you can vote locally on like in November, but just not vote for the president. That's what I was considering doing myself, but
that's where I am.
I'm just going to vote Biden, but like this is the last time. If there's any kind of duplicate like candidate like Biden ever again, I will just not fill in the presidential part.
If I would vote, it'll be local. But so I need convincing.
Oh, you need some convincing for local, bro. You can do it now. Like, oh, okay. So, hey, I want to move on to the next thing, but I also wanted to answer a question from earlier since no one had an answer for that one for the Republican thing. So, the reason why I don't feel like we should give Republicans an opportunity to run our cities is because you can see how they govern federally and also in their own districts. They're not components of giving out things to the citizens. They're about businesses, and those businesses that they're about are typically ran by white people. They try to take programs away from citizens. They don't give or do anything for them. So it's asinine to think that if a Republican was to come into your city, that your buildings would look any different, because they don't give funding towards any of that stuff. They try to prevent as much funding to the people as possible whenever possible. That is like their record, and that's what their policies kind of are run by. So I don't really see Republicans changing that if they ever ran any black city. So just that's to answer that question earlier.
Really quick, why do I disagree? All we this should be a test for all of us to do. We're going to look at the town next door to us that is a Republican town. I live in Patterson, the third largest city in the state of New Jersey. Next door is Wayne. That's a Republican city. Literally a block over, you drive right into White Town. The streets are always clean. Their school system budget is less than our budget, if not the same. They have a 99% graduation rate. It's ran by Republicans that are asking for more money on the county level, that is demanding that there's no crime, creating legislation to protect their citizens. That is what they're doing in Republican cities where I live at, and I've
Right.
studied all of them.
So hey, let me respond. We gotta move on. So normally when I see that type of stuff happening, because it happens in Baltimore too, it's typically when there's less black people and there's more white people or people outside the state. So for example, around East Baltimore, the more away from the white areas that you go, the worse it looks where there's more black people. But when you go where John Hopkins is, where there's a lot of Asian and outside influences come in, it looks amazing. It absolutely looks incredible. So any place that there are less black people, they always have fun. It doesn't matter who's running, but when there is black people, that's when it looks like shit to me. So.
And we're going to move on because I know this is a back and forth. We probably could talk about this all night between Republican and Democratic cities. But I want to talk about Obama's legacy because Bernard brought it up. It has been a bit of a sore spot in, I guess, black communities with what Obama has brought, what Obama has done. I personally did not want to talk about Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, because we've already moved past that. Whatever was done, and now it's time for us to move forward. But let's talk about it. He was at the Democratic National Convention. He gave a very rousing speech. What was his legacy? What could he have done better for black people? What didn't he do for black people? Or do you agree that he did all that he could do?
I don't think he did anything. I mean, can you all tell me what he did for black people? I mean, he wrote a book, and he said it in his book that he's not for giving reparations or just basically not doing anything for black people. So, I mean, maybe you all can enlighten me. What did he do?
So, you want me to answer it, or because I'm not?
Does anybody have does anyone believe that Barack Obama should have done something for black people, or did do anything for black people? Does anyone else believe that? Before Elise goes.
Yes, he should have done something.
Okay.
Yeah, some inclusion, economic inclusion, but there wasn't any.
I mean, the only thing I see that he really did was he gave the kids something to look up to, something to aspire to. Other than that, I can't say of anything else that he did for black people.
Okay. All right. I guess Lisa, it's your go. You gotta defend our guy, our president.
Okay.
Our last
so
president.
Full disclosure, I'm not to the left, I'm not to the right, I'm in the middle. I don't believe that anybody is one thing totally. And to me, anybody who says I'm completely this, I can't trust you because no one is completely one thing or another. So I am in the middle. So I believe Barack Obama, of course, with healthcare. I think he helped a lot of black people with healthcare and being able to expand Medicaid to black people that needed it. I also like the fact of what he did, trying to increase. Of course, he was blocked almost every chance he got. When Barack Obama was in office, you have to understand that he had a Mitch McConnell and a Republican-controlled House and Senate. So anything that he tried to push through got blocked. But I like the fact that he did healthcare. He did inject a lot of different things into the school system on a national level, trying to make education better. There were opportunity zones that were created under him. I think he did a lot more for black people that we don't necessarily know or recognize, because if it is not done necessarily on the local level, you're not going to see it.
Right. So I also want to add to that Barack Obama, just because he was half black, doesn't necessarily mean that he had to be like, you know what? because I'm black, well, I'm going to do all I can for my black people. And then we have a person that's coming Asians like, oh, I'm going to do all I can for Asian. And it's just, I just feel like he's the president of everybody. With that being recognized, I feel like he did a lot for everyone. So one of my biggest or what he could for everyone. One of my biggest things that I was really appreciative and proud of that he put in place was DACA, because that helped a lot of people that really absolutely needed that help. And he also put a lot of policies in place that Trump has been erasing ever since he's been in office. So he has actually been a president for people. Before we move on to this topic, I would like to know of one thing from someone that you feel so he realistically could have done as a black president for black people that he didn't do, and that would kind of give more of energy towards that comment that you keep hearing. Obama didn't do anything for black people, so he wasn't a good president. Does anyone have any policy?
Reparations.
That's not.
I would say
So how
even
would that happen?
How would he get on reparations?
Yeah, how would you get? So the president does not control the purse. Congress controls the purse, and if you have Republicans, even moderate Democrats in there, you're not getting reparations. They control the money.
But while Obama was in office, though, Native Americans got reparations. They got all types of money. They got billions of dollars. And if I'm not mistaken, Jewish people as well went in there and got money.
That wasn't. This is not under Obama, though. I think
I
you're
don't think
getting.
the Jewish thing was under Obama.
Yeah, the
either.
Jewish when they got in. Plus, that also came from over in Europe. So a lot of that money came from Germany that they actually got. And then they also, a lot of the people that got the reparations were in fact still alive. Every Jewish person didn't get reparations. It was only for people who actually were in the concentration camps that did. And when it came to the Native Americans, they got a percentage, but I don't think that necessarily happened under Obama. So I think that there is a little bit of, I wish he could have been Superman. That's the only thing about Obama, because he was the first black president. We put that cape on his back. You gotta be Superman. And we do that a lot with black people, the first black anything. Like, you gotta be perfect, you gotta be Superman. There was no way he could pass reparations. There is no way he could have gotten that passed. He couldn't executive order it. He couldn't have written that. He could not have gotten that through the Congress and the Senate to approve that. There's no way he could have done it. Could he have pushed more for it? Yes. But I think also when you look at reparations, what does that look like? So I guess that I would open that up to you, Mr. X. What would that look like? Because who are we giving this money to? Do you give it to the direct descendants? How do you find out who actually was a direct descendant of a slave? Would somebody who is half white get part of the money? Because technically part of their family was not a slave, part of their family was. So how do you divvy out reparation? Should it be free college for students? What does that look like?
I think you take what they initially started, the 40 acres and a mule, and you take that and you equate that to whatever that's equal to now, and then you hand that out. Now, the specifics on it that you were speaking of, who gets it, who doesn't, that's a whole nother thing. I don't have an answer for that one.
Okay.
So can I say real quick? Because it's a lot of people who have been toying around with the idea of what reparations could look like in this day and age. And it's funny because I had an argument with a friend of mine about how, if we decided to just hand out checks to people who are impoverished or, a number of things, like, it would not necessarily change their material condition in such a way that would benefit Black America as a whole. When we look at what are the issues and deficiencies that exist, we could put money into filling those gaps. So you mentioned something, you talk about free education. Yeah, you could send Black kids to college for free. Like, there are countries that are already doing this, so it's not like there are not models that exist, right? Yep. You can talk about tax breaks for Black people. Rich people already get it, so it ain't like you don't already have a system in place that accepts these kind of practices, right? Or you can look at intentionally pouring money into programs that benefit and help to revitalize and make viable Black communities, right? Because they're failing and they need help, right? Or this is a little more radical, but I think about Lawrence Grand Prix. He's the director of research for Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, and he's been talking about reparations by way of marijuana revenue. You know that drugs have ravaged Black communities all across the United States. You got people who are still in jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
On drug charges. So maybe a part of the reparation legislation could be taking revenue and resources that come as a result of
Mm-hmm.
marijuana and intentionally investing in the communities that have been ravaged. And by and large, those are going to be Black communities, right?
Yeah.
I think.
And making it so all of those corner boys who were selling weed to begin with, you create a system that allows them to be to become legal entrepreneurs and to make them a part of the workforce development, you know what I mean, like cycle, selling the same thing that they went to jail for. So like we talk about
Right.
reparations, there are real practical ways to institute something that is not just handing out checks like they doing the
Yeah.
stimulus right now, but it still would actually benefit Black people long term and create the kind of generational wealth that Black people have not been able to access since we got to this country.
I agree. I think giving checks would potentially be a mistake, but I think also trying to get, because then marijuana, the marijuana revenue I think would be good, but then you have another roadblock. It's Scheduled A under the federal government. Now we got to decriminalize marijuana. I think they should put it on the ballot. Why? This is one of the things that I think Democrats, if I must say, to interject, I know I'm the host, do wrong. Republicans have issues. Guns, abortion, they put it on the ballot. People go out to vote. Why can't Democrats put marijuana, legalizing marijuana, on the ballot?
Because Republicans do a very good job at trying their best to radicalize that idea, and the Republicans do not do a very good
There's
job.
some Democrats that are opposed.
More. There are some Democrats as well, and that doesn't help either. I think the Democrat Party has too many different types of minded voices and agreements. So it's because the Republican Party is so set on what they represent, and it's not really a lot of give and pull. If you're not if you're a lot of times if you're not pro life, they don't consider you a Republican. So like even like Governor Hogan, a lot of them don't consider him a Republican because he doesn't portray himself as they generally do. So I think that's the reason why I think no matter what kind of progressive change is put on the ballot on the Democratic side, it will always somehow, some way, shape, or form have some pushback from the Republican and their message from Republicans, and their messaging is just very, very, very strong and structured.
Yeah, they have the talking points. But one person who actually did, she prosecuted a lot of people for marijuana, but then kind of backtracked it. Let's talk about Miss Kamala Harris. She is now the vice presidential nominee. Is this a good thing for the culture? And does this pick instill more confidence in the voting for Joe Biden? Jay, are you more confident now?
Why did you
No.
start with me? You started with the wrong person for this. Am I more confident because of Kamala Harris,
Yes,
Miss
yes.
Harris? No, I'm not more confident because Miss Harris was chosen. In fact, I the day that it happened, there was
He was
an
on
S
Facebook.
storm, yes,
So was a lot
of
of
an
people.
implosion on my Facebook because I commented at the hypocrisy of people who stand up and scream that they're in alliance or allegiance with Black Lives Matter, and then they also are celebrating Kamala Harris being put as the VP pick, which. I say that one turn. I kind of have to preface this, even though I feel like I shouldn't have to, not because of misogynoir, not because I'm saying black woman, because there were a lot of black women who were very capable of doing this job and who were up. I think a lot of us were rallying to see if Stacey Abrams was going to take it or was going to be the person to get picked, and somebody who was more progressive. What my fear was realized is that they were going to choose someone who has had a bad history with prosecution and with going after and with supporting the for-profit prison system that we have now, that we're trying to abolish, and that you hear all these voices out protesting against and screaming against right now. And that, yes, this looks like a pandering move to choose her to represent oh, I get the woman notch and also a black woman notch. And here's somebody who is sassy and can debate on stage and really give a show and put on this big, performance for the cameras. Absolutely. I was upset that that's the case, but I also realized that we have to get out of this situation that we're in. Like, we're in the fire talking about woulda, coulda, shouldas, and all this other stuff. And right now, we just have to get out of it. I'm not happy about it.
Okay.
As we talked about before, I'm making plans to go elsewhere if this does not go any better. But yeah, I can't say that I was happy about her. I'm willing to go the length to make sure that she gets to the position to kind of show and prove. But her history, the things she's done, you mentioned about the marijuana, that's small fries compared to some of the other things she's done with dismissing DNA evidence that could have cleared men and gotten them out of jail sentences where they still are sitting. And I can't rest right with that. That doesn't rest well with me. So I have an issue with that, especially given the voice of what the people are saying in the country right now and what the young people are saying they want. And they do not want to support police in the way that we have before from before, and they do not want the systems that have been set in place to keep that going. They want to change.
Can I
Okay.
say something that's so
Go.
funny? Again, at first I was like, I'm not going to vote. I mean, at first I was like, oh my gosh, she's horrible, but I'm still going to vote because I am going to vote for her, even though I think she's not good. The funny part again is when I said that black people don't know how to vote. Prime example, she's a senator. They voted her in the city, in the state, that she did all of these things to African American people. So they made her a senator first. And now we're going to make her vice president. It's not as if she's walking into office now. She's been there. And they kept electing someone because they didn't do their research or their homework on her then. So now we're stuck with her. And we need to learn how to vote. That these people, African American people, screw our own community over. And then when we want something from them, you're my brother, my sister. They only chose her because she was the blackest one, and they knew she could get real urban real quick, and then we would embrace her because we're like, that's our sister. So I agree with you, Jay. That's why they picked her.
Hey, Bernard, real quick. Hey, so Breon has another engagement that she has to head out to. So, where you want to give her an opportunity to take her leave. Thank you so much for coming through. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm so appreciative of being a part of this conversation. It was definitely very engaging. And I feel like the note that I want to leave on is we got to stop. Bernard, you gotta stop calling black people emotional. It sounds like you're saying we stupid. We just want our brothers and sisters to be in office. I think that black people do think, and we should definitely vote for people that we feel like represents us, and not just because it's the sister homegirl that sound like my auntie, but rather because we thought about the kind of person that we want to represent us. And everybody is not in a particular box and they doesn't do everything perfectly, but we choose the lesser of the evils. And for a lot of people, Kamala is that, and symbolically he represents a change that people want in this country, and so they are willing to look past some things that they don't agree with for the large amount of things that they do agree with that she represents.
Right.
I just feel like we gotta stop calling black people silly, and you'll get to respond to me because I'm getting off. So yep.
Thanks, Breon. Thanks so much for coming through. Yeah,
Thank you.
All right, hey, so Jay, I do want to give you a small kind of thing to think about. So, where you said that you got to, I think that a lot of people were already there when she was chosen, so they probably took issue with your initial, disappointment, because they're like, yo, like, how you feel now about voting for her is how they already were. Like, yeah, she's not perfect, but Trump's got to go, and you're like, oh my God, like, look what they've done. They should have picked this, and they're like, we get it. But so can you see that maybe people might have potentially already been?
No, my comment was particularly towards the hypocrisy behind it all, and I think that people responded just the way that people respond when their feelings get hurt, when they get called out for something that they're doing, and somebody acknowledges that and brings it forth to the surface. I love that post. I look back at it sometimes because I just like to see the breakdown on like the mentality of people responding. And I repeat it myself time and time again on that to say, hey, I'm not offended by your opinion or by you saying that you still want to support her, because guess what? I'm supporting and I am going to vote for her. But I'm not going to allow you to silence me when I have a perfectly legitimate critique that is fact based and that I've thought about intently before making it. This isn't something that I just threw off the top of my head, like, oh, I don't like her because of this. And just like Lady Breon said, yes, there are things that I'm willing to look past for all these other great things that could possibly come or that will come in. Definitely getting this person out that we have here, these two jokers, getting them out of here is of utmost importance. But I'm not happy that I feel like we're going back in this cycle of choosing somebody who's more centrist and more moderate and who has tons of corporate money in her pocket, tons of sponsors who are going to pull her allegiances away from the people and more towards the money. And that's what I'm about. That's what I'm worried about. And that is my critique. And it still stands. Nobody can touch me on that because it's an actual critique that is there on paper in black and white for you to find. You can Google it right now and see who had the highest amount of corporate sponsors and look at the list out and see Bernie had the least. Elizabeth Warren was right behind him with, I think, 6 or 5. But everybody went up from there more and more and more till you get to the top.
I agree. I agree. So I want to talk a little bit about, since you brought up corporate sponsors and money. What we've heard is the way out of this for black people is by isolating. We're starting to hear the isolation of black funds.
Mm.
Only buy black, only support black. The only way for black people to truly be able to rise above is through capitalism and black wealth. Do you agree with this statement? I'm going to ask Ravondas. Is capitalism and isolating black money the way to close the wealth gap?
Not at all, because like I said, the white races, they were given um assets, homes. You need like I said, the assets to get passed down. That will help a little, but no, that's how America came up. Like in the 50s and the 60s, they had the different loans moving to the suburban areas. They had wealth given to them, like initially. So
Okay. All right.
Does anyone have anything different to add? A
Well,
yes answer. Does anyone believe that that's a
yeah,
pathway forward?
I have to disagree with them. I think economic empowerment is the most powerful way we can go about, uplifting ourselves, our people. That's that and education. That will absolutely do it. If you look at groups of people, like the Jewish community, they they um they support their people, their businesses. It's called group economics. They
mhm.
spend their money with their people. The Jewish dollar, I believe, it circles 15 times, 12 or 15 times before it leaves the community. The Asian dollar, I think it's like 10, and when you get to the black community, it doesn't circle our community
Mhm.
at all. Soon as the black person gets some money, it goes right out to somebody else. It doesn't go in the hands of another black person.
So I agree with that aspect, but when you go to commercial property, that's where the wealth is. Like when you talk about individual owners or store owners, that's not enough wealth to get us where we need to have funding within the community. But like you said, the commercial loans that are given, they have that property. They're like the main holders of it. When you go to white races, we don't have that. Like you go to Ryan Homes, construction buildings, that's the commercial, the larger scale. But when you talk about like black people, we only have it on that small scale when it comes to
Well,
I
I
agree. I agree with you. And if you look at it, the way most white people have acquired their wealth is generational wealth. They own plantations. They had hundreds of thousands of acres of land, and a lot of them still have the majority of that land. And the the um the wealth lies within the land.
right, and that's been stolen from us. You got when the slaves were free, they had land down in the south, but it got stolen. There was some paperwork they lied on. They were probably even killed and hanged for it. So that's why I
well,
said we need to be given those assets. We need some type of assets and land, especially land. That's like you said, that's where everything starts.
I'm sorry, Ravondis. Even after what you're saying, you're talking about slaves being taken. A lot of the things that Mr. X is mentioning about us needing to keep the dollar within the community and be able to empower each other, that was already happening, and that did happen before. If you look at the city that we're in, Baltimore was a bustling city, and the black population here struggled and built up their own businesses and did establish things. But just like we have seen, and which has come to light about Tulsa and other things throughout history, these things have been stolen and taken down. Every time people get on a good economic standing, they are then villainized or victim. They're attacked, and that thing is brought down because that is empowering the community. So yes, we absolutely do want to unify and come together and economically build ourselves up. But I think it also, what you mentioned earlier, kind of is a clue to this. You talked about them being given stuff. And so that's where you have a difference of understanding equality versus equity. We need equitable solutions. We need to have that larger box to stand on so that we can get up to those entitlements and get over that privilege line to be able to get in there and be able to reestablish ourselves and have ourselves be able to run without all those things later on. But you have to have them first. You have to have something to make things equitable. You don't expect a person to start a race 5 miles behind and make it to the finish line like everybody else. That just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? You have to at least give that person, especially if you haven't given that person the opportunity to run in years, you need to let them start at least a mile ahead to get any kind of equality out of it. Equity first, equality later.
Bernard,
I
Makes sense.
I think I disagree with you guys, to be honest with you. And I think that it's time that we just leave it alone and move forward and forget about the past. Because I'm a real estate agent. And I can be very honest with you. I have noticed tons of African American people in Patterson, in Baltimore, New York, who was left a house from their grandmother, their grandfather, and they chose to sell it because the family wanted their money up front. They did not want to keep it in the family. They did not want to use it as an investment property to gain money. We have been given a lot of opportunities, but we are some fearful people. We're afraid to invest. We're afraid that everyone is out to get us. We don't want to help those in our community. When I'm a real estate agent, the only black agent at my company, Premier Broker in West New York. When I left that company, before I came here, I was at another company. I sat in the interview and I said, how many African Americans do you have here? They said none. I said, good. That's the only way I want to come up in here. I'm being honest with you. I have mastered myself.
wow, okay.
I am. I can be honest with you. I consult for the largest nonprofit, the only black executive. I hire black people to work for me. It's not that I'm trying to hold anybody down. We have to get those positions and those jobs to help pull our people up. And a lot of people are not doing that. They're not guiding. I raised $250,000 in Patterson for African American nonprofit organization, putting my money up front, saying you keep whatever you bring in. That was not good enough for the black community. They don't want, not half of them don't want any help. They do, and you can't tell me. I'm telling you, I have sat at the table, I've sat in the rooms, I have yelled at the top of my lungs, wake the F up. What is your problem? Oh, you talking down to me. Why you? No one's talking down, and you wake up. It's called tough love. Enough is enough. Stop making excuses. We have had homes for $2,000 in Baltimore. How many drug dealers do you know in Baltimore that can go buy one of them houses, gut it out, put Section 8 in there, $1,800, put it in their mother's name, their daughter's name, start spreading that wealth along? They too afraid. They'd rather buy Yeezys and Gucci shoes and Gucci belts so they can be the flyest thing on the block. That is what's taking place in all of our communities.
Rap music.
The drug dealers every day and say, invest your money. Get your mother to go in and buy a Subway. It's not that much. I started a home health agency by myself in an all-white community. Do my Googling. 2% African American in that city. It is not being afraid. It is using every opportunity. I was laid off I lost the election, got upset, stressed out, walked out of my job, had no money, took my unemployment check, and I did 2 rentals and opened my own home health agency. It is about educating our people and telling them to take advantage of every opportunity what the white man has done for years. Half of them
So
did not receive anything. They take advantage of everything that's given to them.
okay, so what you're saying, if I can wrap it up, is that a lot of the issues in the black community, as far as the wealth gap, is because black people are not taking the initiative
Yes,
in order to build the wealth, and they're using excuses as reasons why they can't get ahead.
I
yes,
think I think it's a combination of
Wow.
everything that was mentioned. Honestly, I
Yeah.
think that some people, of course, they get opportunities, like you say, when the houses are passed down to them, or if they come into a large amount of money and they buy materialistic things. And then there are some people that might not necessarily have the educational awareness of what
Education.
to right to do with the money. And I also think that there are certain situations where they have both the education and both the financial starter funds to do something, and because of the color of their skin, they're going to the wrong people and they're not giving the opportunities to be able to do anything with it. So
Hmm.
there's challenges there as well. So I think it's a and then of course I think, because I'm writing down everything that's been being said. Also too, the supporting each other. So, Jay, I think you mentioned that. You said
Hmm.
their opportunity, the things in their communities were built, but they've been torn down. So I think that that is something that we probably could dive a little bit deeper in. What do you mean by they're being torn down? By whom? Is it just by outside people? Or do you think that people inside the community as well tear them down?
Oh no, not inside the community. I'm talking about outside of the community. When I
Okay,
say
so
I'm not saying that black people tore these things down. I'm talking about through the process of the political process, through the economic process with the city. I'll give you an example here. This is just with housing. I live in original Northwood. Northwood's history is really interesting. It's the first by law place where black people were legally denied the ability to own these homes or be in these houses. Like it's on the deed that black people couldn't own these homes. Now, when my family moved here, it was they were I think the second black family on the block. Okay, so we have established within this community, and now this community has turned mostly their black people here. But an interesting thing happened when they moved in. Suddenly, the street cleaners stopped coming around. Suddenly,
yeah,
the infrastructure was robbed.
interesting.
There were no roads being fixed. All the things that support the community, not the community itself. Now, the people here kept it clean. They kept it beautiful. They were very active, very supportive of each other. I grew up in a great place because of that. But all the other things around it, they had to take responsibility for that too. Things that the people who lived here before, the white predominant people who lived in this area, who had already run from this inner city up a little bit further, they kept going further and further until they went outside of the county and 695 was built. All of that, those same people, that whole entire structure was built off of infrastructure being taken care of when they were here, and then when they left, it being taken away. And I've watched that, and it's the same thing with the businesses that we have. We build them up, but if everything else around them, the roads, everything else is robbed and allowed to go into dilapidation, it influences and collapses the economy that we've built up within that bubble. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I get you, and I
Yeah.
agree with you. So, what I'll say now, then Lisa, I'll let you. I'm sorry to keep cutting you off. In this situation, everyone said something mostly different, but a little bit of what everyone has said does apply to the improving the economics for Black people in some way, shape, or form. So I just hope you guys all realize that everyone said something very different, mostly, but it all kind of ties into together. I don't think we should ignore the influences that certain public figures do provide on our youth. Because I feel like instead of chasing education, they see this as an opportunity or a way to become wealthy, and that might be the path that they take and not end up being successful.
I think sometimes with that, it's mind. I think the biggest issue in the black community is mindset. I think because we've gotten in a place where a lot of us we're in a place of despair because we've seen, like Jay said, we've seen them pull funding out of the communities, and the community slowly started to crumble from within. And so if we see that the community is going down, you feel like it's not as valuable. Like they don't feel value in us, we don't feel value in us. And when you feel like it's not valuable, it starts to eat the community from within. So I feel like a lot of its mindset is what we're talking about, or what Bernard is kind of trying to, in some ways, say is mindset, or changing the mindset of where people are. I think, but the issue also is the fact, the lack of opportunity, the lack of knowledge. Like, you had the knowledge, you knew where to go. Every person is not going to have that.
Exactly.
Everybody's not going to have a person that says, hey, you got this loan, here's what you need to do, or here's where you need to go to get this loan, or here's how you invest your money. So I think a lot of it is about that as well. But that also brings together, who are the leaders? Who are the leaders right now that are appealing to you, that we need to shed light on, that we need to really start pushing to the forefront, that is going to change not only local communities but also on a national level? Let's ask, I'm going to ask Bernard, are there any leaders right now that are appealing to you that you would like to shed light on?
None. The only one I liked so far was Rice, to be honest with you, and not to get off subject. Even in like, I don't mention Baltimore. I love Baltimore. I wanted to move there actually within the last month or two.
Okay.
But
Oh,
come on, your budget is what is it, $3 billion to run Baltimore, and you're living like that for $3 billion. When are the
So,
black people going to wake up and say, where is $3 billion going at?
so
Why are
hey,
we not touching $3 billion in the city?
I got you. So just to make sure you don't have any leaders that you want to promote, but I gotta say that every part of Baltimore does not look like that video that Kim put on the internet. So she made sure to go to the
Yeah,
certain parts. It's some parts that look really good,
that looked
and
like
there,
$3 billion.
right, and
Actually, I was
and
there,
she's
looking
the
at this one
seventh
yesterday.
district at that. She's the
she
Yes,
don't
seventh
even
district,
live
which is
here.
mostly Howard County, is
yes.
Yeah,
within this,
Thank
it's
you.
yeah.
Columbia,
So
Ellicott City.
But can I tell you something? To be honest with you, that 3 billion, half of that 3 billion is catered around where she's at, bettering it. Because
right,
guess what?
we don't
They
disagree
make
with that.
money off of black people being illiterate and dumb. That's where the money comes from. They want to hold us down. They want to keep us down because they get more funding. And when they get the funding and say we need 2 million here to help them in this area, we need another 3 million to educate them because they're illiterate and the poverty level is so low. They're getting the money. They're just not giving it to us. That's
I
the
agree.
problem.
We agree with that. I don't think anyone disagrees with that at all.
When
But
you have welfare, when you have 3 or 4 family members, Caucasian, working in the city welfare office, degrading our people because they're sucking the money out of our community that they're getting to help us and uplift us. And we have to stand up and say enough is enough. Where is it at? We want to see numbers. We got to hold people accountable because you're using us to get this, but you're not giving it to us.
okay.
Okay, Jay, are there any leaders that are not in the forefront that should be?
Ooh. That's a tough question. Yeah, I mean, you're asking me directly for someone's name, and it's kind of hard because, like, I feel like Lady Breon is a leader. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, I feel like that. Like, I'm more on a grassroots and local level when I feel like I'm looking for leadership, and I think the youth is looking in that direction as well, as opposed to it being one central person. We have social media now. We have streamers. We have people who are out there who are really moving and galvanizing the voices of others together and making moves that way. And I feel like that's really affecting a lot more. I'm so proud of young people right now because a lot of them are stepping up and really doing that work and
Mm-hmm.
coming into, into fruition, really understanding themselves. And I think that those are the people whose voices are going to be the next. I mean, Tamika Mallory is great. I
I
love the
don't agree
fact
with you
that
there.
yes, yes,
I don't agree with you
I
there.
know. That's why I mentioned it because I wanted to amp it up for you. But I do, and you can have issues. But what I'm saying, as far as a person who galvanizes and has a voice that is really speaking for a lot of people, there are those people out there. But I feel like it's less of a central person and more of grassroots and more diversified.
I can agree with that.
When you don't have one person to, it makes it a lot easier to continue getting the message across and doing that because that one central figure doesn't have to be tied to so much controversy and allow the message to get destroyed by that. Then if a lot of people carry the message and really unify and have the same voice, that makes the message even more strong, and more powerful.
Okay, I can agree with that. Ravondas, are there any leaders, or do you have anything different to add
So no, I
for the
agree.
black leaders?
Jay pretty much covered like the grassroots, just coming for everyone to unite together. Like I said, I'm very radical. I don't even believe in the system at all. I'm looking for a revolution, not a violent, but the people uniting together and like it's so many lies. I don't know what to believe. So it's
Okay.
like I'd rather make change with the people, like starting local and moving on up. Like nothing
Hmm.
violent, nothing. Not the Black Panther. Well, I
Well, the Black
Hey, don't
Panthers
knock it.
started off
I
something
idolize the Black
different.
Knock
Panther,
it.
so
They were something
but
different, and then it got mutated
Free
into
lunches, free
yeah,
lunches, breakfast programs. Come on
which is
now.
still around today.
Yes,
It's still yeah, it's
yes.
still around today.
Props.
so it's just my
That's
lack of trust of this system. It's just a lot of things don't make sense. Like even with the economy, like we're in what $1 trillion of debt, but we're still getting things funded. Who makes that decision? Who makes that choice? It's called fiat money that I looked up. That doesn't even make sense. Like it's people who is really in control. Like that's my whole thought process. So I
Okay,
just
so
don't.
you're on board with Illuminati. You're are you in that boat?
No,
Not no,
thank
not that
God.
extreme. No, no.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Because
All right.
it's no evidence. So I'm a person that sees, but I just
Thank
believe in
gosh.
the power the power of the people. You know what I mean. Should come. It should be one common thing that we can all agree on is just do what's right. So
Okay,
Okay. All right, Mr.
and
X,
Mr.
go.
X.
As far as leaders, I really don't see any. Well, too many right now, or not much of any right now. But we can still follow the leaders who are no longer with us, like the Malcolm X's, Marcus Garvey's. And I look to the master teachers like
hmm.
Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark. These are the people I watch their videos repeatedly, over and over again. You know, you have to feed the mind, and that's what I'm into. You know, I feed my brain. I don't. There's a lot of rap music that I used to listen to, and I still listen to rap music. I listen to it every single day. But some songs, like a lot of the Biggie Smalls that I used to listen to when I was in my 20s, and I just look at how I was living and the things I was doing, and I did not care about myself or anyone else at that time. And I refuse to listen to a lot of that music now. I refuse to listen to any of that music now. The kids get in the car with me, it's Earth, Wind, and Fire nonstop. You know,
Okay.
All right,
hip hop.
I got
Now
leaders
that
too.
could
My
be
bad.
inspiring some other stuff though, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You talking about
Oh
inspiration?
gosh.
Come on.
Hey,
A lot of babies was made off Earth, Wind, and Fire, so don't have the kids listen too close, you know.
so
Hey, that's
I
that.
got.
It's all about love. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Gotcha. So I have two that I want to mention. Well, first and foremost, I want to kind of bring attention to Elijah Cummings and John Lewis because I feel like if I could really point to leaders that I 100% agreed with, I would really point to them, and I feel like they should be the example and not an exception that's off of their messaging. They cared unequivocally about all types of black people. It wasn't just the straight. They advocated for every kind of black person. It wasn't any exclusion for them. They have passed away, and I don't really. I know it's kind of difficult to feel like we have to always choose a leader that is on a public platform because a lot of times some people that may not have those platforms could be doing great work too, but right now that's kind of what we have to rely on. So Angela Rye, I'm actually kind of a big fan of hers. I think that she's putting in a lot of good work. I think she has a lot of great things to say, so I'm definitely a big fan of hers. And I'm also interested to see what Brandon Scott does for Baltimore. He does not look like the standard run-of-the-mill politician. So I'm really
Yeah.
hoping that he's more open to making better changes. They already
Hmm.
have took in a part of downtown Baltimore that was just an open grass field, and they're changing it into a park.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I saw that the Rashfield area
yeah,
around
they're
the
actually up.
backside. Yeah,
And I seen
yeah,
him. He wasn't. I was like, okay, this guy looks like he's from Baltimore, and
yeah.
yeah. So it's like someone that lives and grew up here. So I'm having a little bit more faith and potential for him. And like I said, every part of Baltimore does not look like what Republicans tend to try to focus it. There are a lot of new things that have been built here. It's just that a lot of the old things are ignored.
I'm very hopeful for that. Likewise for Brandon Scott, and also I would say this kind of moves in contrast to what we were talking about earlier, that Black people just vote without knowing what they're doing, because that showed
That
you
that
like a
would be a turnout.
real turnout. Yeah, people really came forth to support him, and Black and white people, you know what I mean, came out to support him from the city to try to choose something different. It was very close. We almost had
Yeah, it
Sheila
was. Oh my
Nixon. We
god.
were like right
I
on the line,
know. I'm so glad
but
we
you know,
didn't.
as that weekend turned out, and it was like, wait, Brandon Scott, and I mean, I think it was it definitely it sent elation through me, because I love to see the brother out there with his afro on. He's always doing this
Yes.
thing, you know what I
He's
mean?
wearing
So
normal
yeah,
people's
yeah,
clothes.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like I said, like I mean, I think he's very accessible on social media.
He
So
is,
so
and very responsive.
yeah, so I'm really thinking that this could be. I mean, hoping that politics don't change him too much, or being
Yeah.
in power changes him too much. But I'm very hopeful right now. He seems like a person that's actually goes out there and will be there with the people, and it's not like Sheila Dixon, who had like a freaking bus driving around saying to vote for her in the neighborhood, like someone that's so inaccessible, you know?
She be there with the people, but it was other stuff going on, and
Yeah,
we're not going there. The point was that was tainted after, and then once that moved on, that will never leave the minds of the people. You know,
yeah, of
that's why I was
course.
talking about that controversy. It's always that thing, you know.
Right. Yeah, and I think with Baltimore, just bringing it full with Brandon Scott, the only thing that I would say, I can't say that because I live in the county. So I live in Baltimore County. So what happens in Baltimore City doesn't necessarily impact me. But he was the city council president. So it's very hard for you to say, like, hey, he's different. He was the president of the city
Hmm.
council
That's
And
true.
under.
it up. I
Yeah.
like, hold up.
Right. So I
Yeah.
think
For the council of
it
Baltimore.
is, yeah.
It's not like it's. I mean, but honestly speaking, if I'm going to be like really 100%, I feel like if you're not in some form or shape or form established in some way, you don't have a chance. So like if I wanted to
Yeah.
run and I'm like, yo, like I've been, dancing in these Baltimore streets for a long time. I've done lived all over Baltimore and everything. I know what Baltimore needs. Please support me. They're like, who are you? So I think in some way, to me, let's say you didn't know he was on city council, you would look at him and he would not give you that vibe. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But again, that's Bernard's point. It's bringing it back to he feels like.
Yeah,
He
yes.
looks
No,
like.
that would go back to Bernard's point. I will 100% agree with you.
No, well, also you mentioned, I think, and this is a key thing, the accessibility thing. Like, again, I know a lot of people, and Sheila Dixon started that podcast thing where she was talking to people when she was running again, but he was available before then. You could always reach out. There was always he's a younger person, so
Yeah.
there already was a presence there online and in social media, and with responding to people and really giving answers right on the spot to things, instead of waiting and making up some long, discussion that you're gonna have later on.
But he
So I,
missed a lot of debates as well. Like he did
yeah, he
not want to
did.
do the
Yeah.
debate route.
And he was bullied out of a few of them, so we can't miss that either. He was knocked out almost. So yeah.
No.
All right, Bernard, what you about to say?
You guys have to ask yourself. Yes, he was the council president. What did the question is? Did he vote to raise taxes? Did he allocate funds appropriately when he was on the council? Did he create legislation that will protect the people in the city of Baltimore? Not because he's cool, he's relatable, he is. You can reach out to him. If he doesn't have a job, he should have nothing else to do but pick up the phone and answer your questions. The question is, did he do his job for the people? That you now want him to be the mayor. Because then you're going to say, if he becomes the mayor and screw up, oh God, another one fucked up. But then you mad because you made the bad decision of voting for someone without doing the research on the person to make sure the person can do the job because he's sat at the table with the council. Did he say, I'm going to allow the mayor to put certain things on the agenda that the people can see? That is their job. Did he do his job before we say, oh, we like him, he's laid back, he's cool, he's nice, just like the other 15 that got arrested before him that we thought was good for the people, did their job, because we never did research on them to see they had this shady past when they sat in the council seat before they became the president.
Mm-hmm.
Sheila didn't just become this way, she was already that way. People only
I didn't vote for her at all.
out of her.
Well,
Yeah.
no, that's a good point. I really think that's a really good point. But at the end of the day, we can't do anything about it now because he's going to be the mayor. So we just have to try our best to talk to him and give him an opportunity to actually be the things that we need him to be. He's already there.
Yeah. Actually, I was
Wasn't
going
he
for
contested?
Washington. Yeah.
Contest.
I
Isn't it
think.
there's a Republican candidate? I don't think it's over yet. I think he is
We
contested.
already
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that ain't
But
no
why is he
way.
contested? The numbers wasn't that high for him.
No, he's
No,
saying that there's a Republican they're saying
meaning
that
there
There,
still has to have
he's
a vote. There's
right.
going to be a
Yeah, he's
yeah.
Republican
just not.
mayoral candidate.
he's
So
basically
why would he
saying like, will it be the
vote?
Republican upset of the century and a
Yeah.
Republican become
Not
mayor of
contested by his
Baltimore?
own party, not by the Democrats. Outside of
No,
that.
Outside of the
Yeah.
So
Democrats.
the last
no, but
question is: he didn't win by a landslide, meaning enough blacks didn't come out to give him the vote to make sure that he won by a
no,
landslide.
that's not what that's not what that means.
No.
We're saying that he still has to win the election against the Republican nominee.
Okay, got
So
you.
he's
In
a
November.
primary in November.
It's still a primary, yeah.
He's a primary for the Democratic Party. But and still also to your point, there were a lot of support for Sheila Dixon with her previous history that everyone knew about it, and she was almost the mayor anyway.
And I mean, as we're talking, there are questions about his candidacy because his ties because he has contractors where his major I think his major contributors were contractors for his, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, we didn't get the people. I wanted Mary Washington. I don't know if you were cued into her, but Mary Washington I thought would have been a
Oh, you
fantastic
okay?
mayor, but they weren't ready for that progressiveness. They weren't ready to have a lesbian, and have her
No.
be up there, a black lesbian mayor who was going to run it that way. And maybe the fact that she's a black woman again as well. We already know that there was that thing said by Marie Buble on television about
Yeah,
isn't it
she
time to
did.
go a different direction and things like that. So that's lingering around, and those kind of racist ideologies are always around too to kind of hinder us.
And
Absolutely.
I want to end on a positive note. What are some initiatives or changes that you plan to make or have made to strengthen the black community?
Just talk to the youth. I mean, I've been doing this for years. Just go over there and talk to them, and I mean, just keep it real with them. They don't have to be on no gangster type talk, and none of that. Just go communicate with them. Like just the other day, I was in the grocery store, and like the supervisor was coming towards one of these youngins, and he was like, "Hey, come here, man! You didn't do this, you didn't do that," and the guy was, just talking to himself before the supervisor was coming in. He was like, "God damn, this guy every day he on my ass." So after the supervisor finished, chewing him out, I went over there and talked to him. I said, "Look, man, don't trip off him. Don't trip off him at all. It's just a job. You work here to get money. You're not married to this guy. Fuck him. Excuse me, forget him, man. You're not married to him. You listen to him, and then after that, you walk away from him, man. You don't have to communicate and kick it and act like you his friend. Just do what he asks real quick, and then after that, do your thing." And he was so appreciative of me talking to him like that, man. He said, "Man, I really appreciate that, big brother. Thanks a lot, man. I needed to hear that, man." You know, so that's what I do, and I plan on continuing to do that.
Okay, like almost like a mentor. Ravondis, what?
So yeah, but mine are on the same lines like of mentoring. I have a boxing platform. Like I just want to talk to people just to free their mind. Like I said, spiritually, just to have them think different, not to be stuck in a box. But of course, I want to gain the charisma. Like you said, you gotta have a attractive life to inspire people. So you saying you can talk all you want, but what are you showing? So I have my own individual plans. And I'm actually like that's why I joined this platform because I'm looking for different type of people, like to see the minds of other people that want change. So like I said, I'm not the best talker or I don't even follow politics like that, but my heart and mind is it. I do plan on to get more education and just using all my resources just to make an impact. So like I said, I have my boxing platform and I'm using that right now. So
Okay,
Really good way
yeah,
to like
definitely.
give youth an opportunity to do something different with their spare time.
Yeah. And Jay, what are you doing, or what do you think should be done?
Well, I'm an educator and I'm being educated as well. So I'm working on thesis right now, and it's on representation. So it's definitely about how we see ourselves and the ability to see ourselves in places and see ourselves positively. Um, And other than that, I mean, again, I mentioned the youth earlier. I really have a lot of confidence in the young people who are coming up right under me, and with the generation, the Zoomers now, as we're calling them, and their ability to kind of overcome some of the challenges that we've left out there. And I think my place is to be supportive of that in every way possible and to invest in those people. I like that idea of investing in people instead of investing in things. You know what I mean? Really planting those seeds with the right people and allowing them to use their talents to go forth and be the voice that carries this thing outside of where we even expected it could go. I mean, look, honestly, anybody in here, did you guys expect the protests, the way that they fell out after George Floyd, all across the country, and all the people that were involved in it? The line of moms, the dads coming with leaf blowers, the people just coming on, piling on day after day after day, putting their bodies on the line to say that this thing matters. You know what I mean? To say that Black life matters. Those are the people that I want to invest in. That's what I'm trying to push.
Okay. And Bernard, what are you doing to further the black community, or what do you believe should be done?
To be honest with you, I've taken a little sabbatical from the entire political scene. When Alex hit me up, I just was like, I'm nervous. I haven't done this in a while. It was fun before, but I believe that we need people that are happy, people that have something going on to encourage and uplift the other generation. Because you can't help someone if you have not been able to help yourself.
Hmm.
I'm a true believer of that. So at this particular time, I'm just helping raise like $5,000. I'm having a fundraiser on Friday for someone that's going to medical school or some type of program.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's my first step back into the scene. Someone hit me up yesterday and asked what I help. Like I said before, I raised over $250,000 2 years ago and 1 year for nonprofits, and I just realized that it was used the wrong way. Those people, their intentions were wrong. I was wrong. And just being mindful of who I help moving forward so that the actual people that need it receive what they need.
Okay.
All right, I
Definitely can
want
respect
to
that. Go
want to
ahead.
go real quick. So, lately I've been trying my best to get in contact with representatives of these Black organizations that received a lot of funding thanks to the Black Lives Matter movement. So, like the NAACP is its headquarters are positioned in Baltimore. I think I'm also going to try my best to keep reaching out to Brandon Scott. Baltimore has a very high Baltimore club scene, and I really think that if well, this was mentioned earlier with Brianne when she said defunding the police, if we take funds from places like that and the black donation organizations and put it into the craft, especially into Baltimore dance, and we put it like and we make studios and spaces for them to practice. We hold competitive competitions for them with cash prizes. I really think that can give a lot of people more incentive to use their craft in ways not just necessarily just hobbies, but in a competitive way and be able to get lucrative benefits from it. The organization I'm a part of, BCP, I don't believe that we have our studio anymore. And right now we like, where are we going to take these kids at for, teaching them right now? And there should be options for that, and they're just not. And I don't understand what our taxpayers are going to, if we don't have studios for our children
If
to be
you
able to practice.
take the cash and put it back into revitalizing the rec centers and making them into places for that to happen and for you to
It
be
would
able
be.
to advertise. I mean, again, there have been studies that have shown we already have this stuff, even from Hopkins itself, that showed that really affects the crime, that affects the ability for people to go on. It gives people things to do, like you're talking about, things that are positive for them to do
And,
in the
and,
community and to showcase themselves,
and well
and make money
practiced.
sometimes.
Absolutely. So, hey, look, one real quick, Bernard, and don't forget your train of thought because I want to actually have a note for you. If you could, I think that it would be really great since you have a lot of educational success in economics. If you could actually just go to different people in different communities that are Black and give them direct access to how to become successful I think that that could go a long way. I think the issue that I have sometimes with conservatives is that they say that the way to become successful is by voting Republican. When you became successful, it had nothing to do with your political affiliation. It just basically was based on your education, your knowledge. So I think that if you could do that, I'm not saying you're not doing it now, but I think if you continue to do that like the rest of your life, you'd be doing a really great benefit to the black community.
And we'll talk about that off camera,
Yeah,
you
of
and I.
course.
But I want one thing I want to say to you, and that's a good thing for Scott, whoever the guy that's running for mayor. Your job should be to reach out to him as well as your council member and say, I have an organization. There are developers that are coming and getting 30-year tax abatements in these urban communities, sucking us dry. What are they giving back to the community? There should be no issue with you guys saying, I just was in Baltimore about 3 weeks ago. I went to have lunch there at Amy's. I drove all the way there for lunch.
Oh wow.
And I noticed all these different projects being built. And I'm like, well, why are they building new projects when they have all this old stuff? But I
Right.
realized that it's cheaper to build new than to revitalize the old stuff. But the whole point is reaching out to your council member and saying, one, there are federal funding and grants that Baltimore have that they're not using. And when they don't use it, it sits there. But you have to have a council member that say, hey, why can't we assign that or allocate that over to that program? That's one. Two, you need to pressure your council member to say to these developers, you want a 30-year tax abatement? Why can't you build build a gym, update a firehouse in our city? You're getting a 30-year tax abatement where you're not paying any taxes and you're charging these people full price for rent. And I say that because in white towns, when a developer comes into a white city and build that white council, that Republican council tells that developer, build a church, build a school, build a fire station. That's what they're doing to add on top of the 30-year tax abatement that they're saving $3, $4, $5 million in their own pocket. So we now need to hold these people accountable and say, do your job, fight for us, get us what we need. There is no reason why you're here trying to help a dance team motivate the youth to be inspired to want more, and you don't have the access or the halls. Call developers. Hey, I have a studio. Can we just get a test run of 3 months here of practicing? Then you use that to take to the next developer. This developer gave us this. Can you do the same for us? It's going to be a tax write-off. You're going to look good in the community. That's what it's all about, using the resources, educating our people on what's there for them, because we have to remind you that that's why the white people are making it, those white towns, because they use every opportunity that comes before them.
Right. I agree.
Agreed. Well, I want to thank everybody who was on this panel today. I want to thank Mr. Bernard Jones, J. Justin White, Mr. X, Ravondas, Lady Breon Taylor, and of course my co-host Alexander for putting all of this together and doing all of the hard work. So I appreciate you. So make sure that you come back. We are going to have an election special. We're going to be talking to a couple of different people about who they're voting for and why. So make sure you stay tuned. Thanks again for watching. Have a good
Thanks
night.
for having me. All right. Take
All
care,
right,
guys.
thank you.
Good night.